Hello there, and welcome to all of you who are watching after this live broadcast has ended. If we don't know each other, my name is Corey, and I am a husband, I'm a father, a writer, a speaker. I host this live and a podcast by the same name called Existential. And this is a space that we've carved out for people who are going through their own deconstruction of their faith, decolonization of their faith, decolonization or deconstruction of their worldview. If that's you, this is a safe space for you to come and be a part of the conversations that we're having. Now, those of you that are coming in live that do know who I am and have been a part of these conversations before, feel free to hit that share button, and you can share this with whoever you'd like to. You never have to ask me if you can share it. In fact, if you're watching this later on and maybe someone shared this with you after you've gotten to the end, if you feel that it's compelling enough, I would encourage you to share it because I want to put this good out into the world. We are contending for a better world together, and that's one of the ways that you can help do so. Now, I want to talk today. I got some fire shut up in my bones is what I feel like right now. So it's so all week, so many thoughts rushing through my brain, and I feel in my body that I have something to say. So I'm hoping that I can say this the way I feel it right now, right? And I'm feeling something that's important. I'm watching the world, and I'm seeing what's happening in it. And we're seeing that there is a great tension happening in the world right now. There is an uprising that's happening that's amazing. There is a lot of debate going on. There's a lot of people engaging in conversations about race and racial reconciliation. Some of those conversations are helpful. A great deal of those conversations are not, as we have witnessed earlier this week with a prominent white evangelical pastor coming out and saying that slavery was a blessing. Now, I'm not going to get into all of that right now at the top. I may get into some of that later because, like I said, I got fire in my bones. I've seen several things this week that have just disturbed me to my core, but I am trying to maintain a sense of peace and love and justice and goodness, maintain joy in the midst of struggle. I took Juneteenth and didn't do much of anything, which was refreshing and good for my soul to do that, because I don't want to spend my life angry and bitter and raging at I shouldn't say raging, because to be conscious in America and be Black is to be in rage almost all the time, to quote James Baldwin. But I don't want darkness to reside in my soul. I don't want to, in resisting evil, become evil myself. So I say that to say that it's good to take a break and to rest and to step back. And so as I watch the things unfold, I want to address some of those things today that I've seen unfold. And I probably will be pretty passionate about some of those things because they're important. You see, as I said a couple of weeks ago, what we're talking about right now is we're not having a debate about what's the best color to paint the walls inside of a house, or we're not talking about it. What color should we paint the Capitol building in DC? We're talking about lives. We're talking about Black lives and Black futures. That's what we're talking about right now. We're not. This isn't for people. For Black folks, this is not something that's like, oh, there's some equal parts of a conversation. No, for Black people, this is about survival. This is about seeing Black futures. Okay. And so I want to talk for a moment about some things that we have as a society, and some of my brothers and sisters from the dominant culture, some of the things that I've watched people engage in that don't help preserve, save, ensure a future for Black folks. Well, first, let me tell you this about my childhood, right? So when I was a kid, after church on Sundays, my parents wanted to take a nap, so they made me and my two brothers take a nap. So when I was a kid, I realized that one of the indicators that I had been asleep was that I drooled. I'm sorry to gross you out, but that so I'd wake up and my pillow would be wet. So I had the idea that, like, if I just went to sleep, if I could say that I took a nap, my parents would let me get up and go watch TV or go play or whatever. So I had this brilliant idea of going to take some water and dumping it on my pillow. And then I'd go present the pillow to my parents and say, hey, I took a nap, my pillow's wet. Or one of the other dumb things I did as a kid, I'd go out and play basketball or soccer or football or run around and get real sweaty and dirty. And I hated taking showers. If any parents who has kids, you know that kids hate cleaning themselves for whatever reason. I hated taking showers. I didn't want to, like, actually get in the water to scrub the dirt and the smell and everything off my body before I went out somewhere. So if we were going to go to dinner, what I would do is I'd go in my room and I'd spray cologne on my stinking body to cover up the smell, to cover up, like, the stink. I would try to present that I had been to sleep by showing some gesture. See, I've been to sleep. Smell me. I took a shower. And I think that what we've done, and when I say we, I'm talking about people who are fairly new to conversations about race and people who throw around things like racial reconciliation. I think that a lot of the things that we have engaged in has been the equivalent of trying to put cologne over a stinking body. We have tried to put gestures and platitudes as a cover-up for systemic racism. Now, I want to point out three such perfumes or colognes, if you will, that I think we've used to try to cover up systemic racist issues. One of those things is acts of kindness. I was having a conversation with a friend just yesterday, actually, and this is a good friend of mine, and I don't tell this story to demonize the friend, but I bring this up because I want to help us see how what we're talking about is so much deeper and so much greater than how we're going about it, right? Acts of kindness. My friend said, I gave my Black neighbor a ride home, and I didn't give him a ride home because they were Black. I just gave him a ride home because it's a nice thing to do. And we just need more of that. And I thought to myself, and even said to my friend, I said, yeah, that's awesome that you did that. But when a system is broken, when a body is smelly, an act of kindness by itself doesn't undo the system that creates the stench, right? So there isn't like, yes, you took someone home, but that does not change the fact that that same young man who you took home, if you weren't taking him home and he were walking home and happened to take a shortcut through a wrong neighborhood, that whiteness would show up and threaten his life. Like, and I understand the inclination to say, let's just be nice to each other. And I do believe in kindness. I mean, obviously, I do believe in kindness. I do believe in goodness. I do believe in acts of kindness and love. And I do think that those things are important, but that is not the answer to what we're talking about. When we're talking about creating a world where Black folks can go check into a hotel. I was watching last night as my big brother, Ben McBride, the bishop, was talking about him and his wife being in San Francisco, having a reservation at a hotel, and that hotel having a security guard who was Latino not let them in and question them while a bunch of white folks walked into the hotel. Someone being nice to a Black person does not undo the way of being and thinking that led the security guard to interrogate a Black couple out in front of the hotel. That's not going to undo the system. That's not going to address the real issue. The other thing that I see, and this one really chaps my ass the most. Okay, this is probably of all of the things, of all of the colognes, perfumes, the jewelry, pillows that like we march out every time we start talking about race. This one bugs me the most. By the way, quick commercial about this painting. My daughter painted this. Is why it's there. My youngest daughter. She painted that yesterday. So that's why it's there, in case anybody was wondering, because the painting's not usually there. And I'm sorry. I had to tell you about that. Okay, get back to what you're talking about, Corey. Okay. The renouncing of ethnicity. I watched this week as two different Black Christians. One of the videos I saw has 3 million views, and it's an older video of a Black woman who is in denouncing her or renouncing her ethnicity in the name of accepting Christianity. Saying, I don't identify as a Black woman first, I identify as a Christian who happens to be Black. And I saw another person who was having a conversation with a white leader who I gotta pray that never mind, with another white leader. And this Black person also echoed similar sentiments about my faith. There's neither Jew nor Greek, blah, 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 from Paul, the book, from a letter that Paul wrote in the Bible. I don't even know how to talk about this without, let me collect my thoughts. Here is, and don't worry, the doorbell, Corey, please stay focused. Here is my biggest issue with this. And you guys, I'm going to be very sincere and honest about this. My experience. I'm not going to talk about what happens in the world in general. I'm going to talk about my experience. My experience has been that I have never seen a white faith leader get up and say, I am not a white man. I am not a white woman. I have never seen it. Maybe you have seen that. But what I see applauded and what I see celebrated is when Black people lay down their Blackness. Is when Black people say, I'm not Black, I'm Christian. Secondly, because I already had to first of all. Secondly, I come from the Christian tradition, for those of you who are just new to the broadcast. There is no place in the Bible that asks people to no longer be their ethnicity. Jesus was a blatantly Jewish rabbi who used Jewish idioms, who engaged in Jewish traditions, who dressed like a Jewish man, who went to Jewish festivals, was very much Jewish. In fact, had a conversation with a non-Jewish person who was asking for healing, and he said, should I give the crumbs to the dogs? Now, granted, Jesus was not calling this woman a dog, and I'm not going to get into all of that today, but just I point that out to simply say that even Jesus walked around fully aware that he was a Jewish man. Paul was fully aware that he was Jewish and also a Roman citizen. Nowhere in the scriptures is there a request, is there a suggestion that we are to lay down our ethnicity in order to be Christian. And any faith tradition that asks you to walk away from your culture, to walk away, to lay down whatever ethnicity you are, is not a faith tradition that values you enough for you to devote your life to them. Now, let me also say this. These two Black faith leaders, they may walk around and feel like, hey, I'm a Christian. Well, guess what? Botham Jean in Dallas was a Christian, but his Black body was viewed as a threat in his own home. When people who believe themselves to be white and superior and supreme see your Black skin, see your Black body, they are not going to stop and say, oh, is that a Christian, Muslim, Buddhist? George Zimmerman did not ask what faith tradition Trayvon Martin was part of. The two men who rode up on Ahmaud Arbery did not ask Ahmaud what faith tradition he was from. The police officers who were executing a no-knock warrant, who kicked in the door of Breonna Taylor and shot and killed her while she was asleep, didn't wake her up to find out first if she had read her Bible that morning. You don't get to act as if solving the problem of systemic anti-Blackness is as simple as Black folks. And again, I'm saying I've never seen white folks. Maybe there are some white folks who have done it. If you've got video of such, please send it. Actually, I don't care. That's not solving the problem of anti-Blackness. The last one. This one. Abstract religious statements. For the last several years, that if I bring up something about race or racism on any one of my social channels, inevitably there is a person, typically from the Christian tradition, because again, that's the tradition I come from, who will insert something in the conversation like, we just need to focus on Jesus. Or all of that was done away with at the cross. And then I'll ask the question, what do you mean by that? And there'll be more abstractions, more vague allusions to some Bible verse. This one is fascinating to me, how people can believe it. And I think the reason that people can believe it is because throughout history, human beings are often so enamored with the idea of a thing that the reality of the thing completely eludes them. So for us as Americans, especially white Americans, to be so caught, my white brothers and sisters are often so caught up in the idea of a one nation under God, loving, kind, benevolent America, that they can lose sight of the fact that America is not a bunch of those things, especially to Black people. And let me remind you once again that people who were worshiping Jesus and hearing about the cross and reading the scriptures and singing the hymns in the late 1900s to the early, in the early 1900s, late 1800s, people were leaving church and going to lynchings. People were reading the scriptures, and people were writing philosophy and theology and doing scholarly work while their slaves were picking cotton. People were raping and murdering Black bodies on Saturday night and on Sunday morning, clapping their hands to Christian music. So when you say to me that Jesus, all we need is Jesus, I go, what do you mean by that? Because America has had Jesus as a part of its conversation since America was founded. And from the time America was founded till now, we are still finding ourselves in racial turmoil because of the fact that white supremacy and anti-Blackness is still a part of how we operate. So what these three things are, I'm going to go over them again. Acts of kindness, just doing something nice for some Black folks, and everybody just being kind to each other. We've had kindness. It still has not done away with anti-Blackness. Renouncing ethnicity, having Black church leaders or faith leaders or politicians or school teachers or whoever say, hey, I'm not Black, I'm blah, blah, blah. I'm not Black, I'm OJ. That renouncing of Blackness does not solve the systemic underlying issues. And lastly, the abstract religious statements like we just need Jesus, or Jesus will fix it, or it's all been taken care of by the cross. All of those statements have existed for a very long time. And again, the most salient point I could make to you is that white supremacists, Klan members, slave owners, attenders, and executors of lynchings all had Jesus as a part of their life, the name Jesus, the terminology, we just need Jesus, was a part of their vernacular as well. And it did not cause them to see Black folks as fully human. So what is our way forward? What is our shower, right? What is our nap? What is our actual work to be done? What is the actual thing? And what it is, and we've heard people talk about this before, is it is a new imagination. What we need is to be able to imagine a different world, to imagine a different way of being, to first acknowledge that the way we have been is broken. The way that it started was broken, and it was doomed to be broken for its entire existence. That the way that the police began as gangs, not even an official entity, as gangs to round up Black bodies, that practice is still happening today. There has not been a time where where there's been a denunciation of that way. There's not been a public a forum, a statement made that says we are no longer operating in that way. On Juneteenth, we celebrated the liberation and the freedom of Black people. That was in 1865, June 19th, 1865. That was 2 years and 6 months after the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863, which was the initial declaration. So for 2 years, people were still enslaved. We are, as a nation, just because we say a thing, right? Just because we declare a thing to be something, just because we have desegregated schools, and because we've done away with Black folks having to sit at the back of the bus, it doesn't mean that the psyche of people who believe themselves to be white has changed. It doesn't mean that the way white people see us as Black folks has automatically changed because the law has changed. And what we're seeing in our streets is that it has not changed for so many people. Has it changed for some? Yes. Has there been some forward movement? Yes. But what we're talking about now is imagining a new way of being. When people say defund the police, what they're saying is, let's imagine a new way of living in society, of addressing criminal behavior, of addressing the safety of our communities without violence. But here's the irony, is that all the folks, and it's a lot of people of faith who I've seen, who have come out and are so offended at the notion of defund the police, that they would bring up Dr. King. Those same people would bring up Dr. King and say, Dr. King would not be proud or not be an advocate of these riots that are happening in the streets, which is probably true. Though Dr. King said that rioting is the language of the unheard. That's a Dr. King quote. But I will concede to you that Dr. King was absolutely, to his core, an advocate of nonviolence. So much so that he was opposed to the Vietnam War, which is part of which drew the ire of the American government to eventually have him assassinated. Now, Dr. King would have been against a war on terror because Dr. King was anti-violence. So it stands to reason, if we're going to speak for Dr. King, let's talk about Dr. King in the wholeness and in the completion of who Dr. King was. Non-violence, which means he would have opposed the violence that we deem are our law and order in America. Police being militarized, us watching the President of the United States have basically police militarized to move peaceful protesters off of a church so he can do a photo op. We're trying to imagine a world where we don't meet violence with violence, where we don't send armed police officers into unarmed situations with people who are unarmed. Why do you need a gun if there's not a gun present? Why are so many unarmed people being killed by the police? Because we keep sending people who have license to be violent into situations that don't need escalation. They need de-escalation. They need mental health professionals. They need counselors. They need people of goodwill to show up and say, hey, there's a situation here. How do we de-escalate this? We need people who are trained in de-escalation, which police do have de-escalation training, but what we've been watching is police escalating situations. Is police having, which I understand as a human being, the human inclination to react, the human inclination to punch back, the human inclination to have pride and ego and implicit bias show up when I address a scene. And if I feel disrespected, then I have a gun or a taser on my hip. I'm going to draw that because I'm a human being. This is why imagining a new world, having a new imagination is so important, because we have to be able to imagine something different than what we live in. We cannot be so enamored with the idea of a just and peaceful society, that America is that we don't accept the fact that right now America is not. People who are marching out these ideas of why don't we just love and hug each other? Well, I don't see color. Yeah, sure, it would be great to live in a society where every human being, regardless of their race or gender or sexual preference or how they identify themselves, was accepted and embraced fully. It would be great to live in a world where everyone in the workplace had an equal opportunity to show off their talents, what they've learned, and to in a complete meritocracy, find themselves getting promotions and recognition at work. But guess what, folks? That is not the world we live in. And it does us no good to try to march out these platitudes as if the platitudes alone can undo the systemic issues that we have to address. We have to roll up our sleeves, get our hands dirty, be willing to sacrifice, be willing to stand on the right side of history, be willing to continue to talk about issues of systemic oppression long after it is popular to be discussed. That is the work. And for all of us, we're talking about this, who are out in the streets, what we are doing is we're saying, can we imagine something different? Can we imagine a world that doesn't center white men as the default hero in every story? Turn your TV on and watch 20 superhero movies. Watch 20 movies with a hero at all. And I would bet you that 16 of them have a white man centered as the hero. Can we imagine greater? Can we imagine different? Can we tell Black stories? Can we invite Black people to tell their stories on their own terms and in their own way without them being policed by whiteness? As I love what my friend, my brother, Andre Henry said in a live earlier this week when he talked about, instead of doing panels where we bring Black folks out to sit on a panel or having Black folks answer questions for white folks, why don't we just move out of the way for my white brothers and sisters who are leaders and let Black folks come and tell their own story in their own words and in their own way. I love that idea. Friggin' love it. All right, folks, that's all I have. I have fire shut in my bones. Hopefully this fire made its way out in a way that's coherent and that made sense to you. I am so appreciative of all of you who are on this journey with us, all of you who are part of our Patreon community. Thank you so much. If you'd like to be a part of that community, in the comments below, on both YouTube and on Facebook is a link to that Patreon. You can be a part of that community if you'd like. Secondly, if you've watched this video after it was a live broadcast, if you watch this all the way to the end, that suggests to me that this is something that resonated with you. So I want to encourage you again, certainly if you joined midway through, share this video. Share it on Facebook, share it on YouTube. You never have to ask me to do so. And if you've got friends that I've not met and you're on Facebook, you can mention them in the comments. And I will be going through the comments. Sorry, folks, if I did not engage in the comments. I'll go through the comments and I will say hi to all of you in the comments. You know why I'll do that? Because this wasn't a live video. I had to pre-record it. There you go. I'm not going to lie to you. Okay, I'm not going to try to trick you. This wasn't a live video, but I am going to go through all the comments right now and say hello to you. In fact, I may have been saying hello the whole time. All right, y'all. Grace and peace.